Hi, my name is Kevin Cole, and welcome to my channel. This is a video that I've wanted to make for a very long time now. Over the last few years, there's been this tidal wave of people coming out of the closet and posting their own videos online, and it's incredible. These videos really helped me, and I have always wanted to contribute to that solidarity. I think that a lot of people might say that at this point, these videos are getting redundant, and maybe they're irrelevant because we've achieved so much equality. But I disagree. People are still being persecuted and discriminated against, not only around the world, but also still in our country. And until all of us are truly equal and protected, I think we have an obligation to tell our stories. And I think through telling our stories and speaking our truth, we have the power to create real change. So let's go. Let's jump right in. I'm gonna go back to the beginning, where I grew up. I grew up in a very small town in the heart of Alaska called Fairbanks. That's where I was born. And I grew up in a low-key cult. I use the term cult loosely, but essentially I was raised in a Christian church who believed that they were the original church descended from the disciples. And I can make an entire video about that for an hour, but I'm not gonna dive too deep in there. Basically, it was extremely controlling, it was very guilt-based, and just very fearful. And I remember people just always saying that you have to do more to go to heaven, that it's not just guaranteed, it's about what you do and how you compose yourself and all of these different things that you check off your list every single day. Very rule driven, women have to have long hair, wear skirts, TV, and at the time when I was a kid, internet was looked down upon. Long story short, this church was descended from a man who was later kicked out because he was so crazy and they didn't want to make any more rules. If you want to read more about that, you can Google the 2x2s or the Christian conventions. My immediate family was a little bit more liberal socially. It was still a very conservative environment, but there was a lot of love, and my parents never kind of fit in that bubble. They were like rebelled as teenagers and never completely accepted that as the only way of life or the completely correct way of life. In terms of homosexuality, I don't really remember them saying a whole lot about it. I remember comments like, not even anything specific, but just like it was kind of weird or maybe a little gross, like they didn't understand it. They had sort of a live and let live attitude. I was also homeschooled, so I spent a lot of time with my family. I always felt loved and supported. Even though being gay was a huge issue for me, I also didn't feel like I was in danger of losing them. I remember the first time I heard about a gay couple was this newspaper article, and I don't even remember what it was about, but I remember them holding it up, and I remember seeing the two men and them making some comments about it, and I was like, well, what's that? And they were like, that's when two men are together, like a man and a woman, but God doesn't like it and it's a sin. So that was maybe the most negative it ever got, and I remember kind of being like, oh, that's weird, I guess that's not a good thing. And even beyond them, it really doesn't matter how much love and support you get from your immediate family, because this messaging is everywhere you look. Not so much nowadays, but definitely 15 years ago, 20 years ago. So moving forward, I think I had that first moment where you look at a boy and you realize, oh, I think I like him. So I think as a child you get to this point where you start looking at other boys and thinking, wow, they're really cool, or I want to be their friend. And you don't really think about it as an attraction thing, but there's a certain moment where you realize, oh, it's not like that I really want to be their friend. It's not just that I think they're cool. I think I might like them, like I'm supposed to like girls. And I remember that moment was really terrifying. And I think after I developed that initial crush, I was maybe 11, I remember I just started repressing it immediately. I was like, this is bad, this can't happen, I can't be like this, no. So I just kind of started burying myself. I think this is one of the biggest problems if you grow up in an environment that is condemning of such a vital part of you, is that you start to develop all of this shame around this thing, this core aspect of life as a human being, your sexuality, who you're attracted to, who you love. And this shame really causes a lot of internal damage. that you are inflicting on yourself because of all of this influence and messaging that you're getting. So during this time, I was also getting really big into the internet. I was spending so much time online. And I remember at one point, I was Googling, like, what is wrong with me? Like, why am I gay? What is this? Because I was so steeped in religion, I remember finding this message board, and it was people discussing it and what this means in terms of being a Christian. And I remember one of the message boards stated that being gay is Satan tempting you, and what you have to do as a Christian is deny Satan and not act on the temptation. And it's so fucked up. But I remember thinking, oh, that makes so much sense. And absolutely no offense if you are currently religious. I think that faith can mix with anything, and it's a very personal thing. But for me, it was very toxic. So I felt like I had my answer, and it was that Satan was tempting me, and if I acted on it, I was going to hell. And I remember just feeling like living a life, a full life as a gay person was the worst possible thing that I could do. I couldn't even think about it. I couldn't even consider it as a possibility. All I could do was push it away and push it down. And I remember thinking that if I had to lie for the rest of my life, if I had to be miserable, I would do it just to make sure that nobody knew. So I guess fast forward to like early teen years, I was maybe 13, 14. I remember I had a particularly bad breakdown, and I haven't really told a lot of people this. This didn't really happen often for me because I kept the fact that I was gay so repressed that I was kind of emotionally disconnected from it in a lot of ways, and I definitely was emotionally disconnected in general. That was how I dealt with it. I put up walls and I kept people beyond arm's length just so that nobody would know what was going on. If I could keep people in the dark, then nobody would ever find out. So anyway, one day I had this particularly bad breakdown. I was taking a shower and I just started sobbing, and I was so overwhelmed and frustrated, and I didn't know how to make it stop. I didn't know how to continue like what I was doing, and I remember just being so angry, and not even at anything in particular. Like, it was myself, it was the world. I just didn't know what to do. And I'm never one to even think about self-harm or suicide. That's never been me. I was a very happy child, but this kind of wave of darkness just really crept over me. And so I was having this breakdown in the shower, soaking wet, I'm sobbing, and I remember I grabbed this razor that was sitting on the side of the tub, and I didn't do anything, but I remember I was holding it there, and I just remember being so frustrated. I wanted to inflict some kind of damage that made me feel something. I stopped myself from doing anything. After it had passed, I remember telling myself that that would be the last time that I would ever even think about hurting myself again. And I said that I would only be kind to myself from then on out. And I wouldn't say I necessarily succeeded in being kind to myself from then on out, but that was the first and only time I think in my life that I've thought about harming myself. But that was really powerful because, like I said, I was a very happy kid and I was completely out of character. But that's how dark things get sometimes, is that even the happiest, brightest people, when they are shoved down, when they are told they are a sin, when they're told that their existence is wrong, when they're told that they're gonna go to hell, when they're told that they're not gonna live a happy, fulfilled life because there's something wrong with them and it's a core part of your being, that shame can destroy people, and it does every single day. So continuing on the surface, I was pretty good at deflection, and if I felt like people were catching on, I could explain things away. I was homeschooled prior my whole life, and then I decided at 14 that I was gonna go to high school, partly just because I wanted to experience it, because I'd never been, And I also wanted to swim for the high school team, lots of different reasons. So I went. So high school was a very, very weird time. For the first couple years, I was very much closeted. I was a little more open with myself about it. I still definitely kept it hidden from everyone, and I remember being terrified of people finding out. And that terror honestly is the most intrusive thing. When like I remember my mom yelling down the stairs like, "Kevin," to call me up for whatever reason. I remember thinking, oh my god, she knows, she's gonna say something. And even when I wasn't consciously thinking that shot of like adrenaline still got me. Or like if a friend would say, "I need to talk to you," you always make that assumption that this is it. I'm going out of the closet, like I'm getting dragged out. And it's terrifying and it's horrible. It's an awful way to live. And if you're going through that right now, I'm sorry. It's tough. So I continued through a couple years of high school. People called me an amoeba. People said that I was asexual. People made a lot of comments, even friends, and like I kind of just laughed it off. Yeah. But I still was not ready to tell anyone. So eventually, I think it was my junior year, my friend Charlotte, we'd been hanging out a lot, and eventually we started hanging out one-on-one, what I guess most people would assume was a date. So we were hanging out one-on-one, we were doing our thing. And so one night I was over there and we were watching a movie, and there was a few other people, but we were laying on the couch together, kind of like sort of cuddling. So we finished the movie and I ended up going home. Obviously nothing happened. I just kind of like hugged, said bye, whatever. And I had kind of been sensing that she was obviously like developing some kind of feelings, but I didn't really know how to address it, and we were just hanging out and it was whatever, I don't know. So I got home and I got a text from her that said, "What are we?" or something like that. It was very direct, and I remember thinking like, shit, here we go. So I thought about it for a minute, and at this point I had basically decided that I wasn't going to lie anymore. I wouldn't necessarily come out, but I wasn't gonna lie, I wasn't gonna pretend to be straight, and I would be honest if the situation arose. So I thought about it for a minute, and I said, okay, let's meet for coffee tomorrow and we can talk then. So the next day we met at GLAAD Brothers, a coffee shop, and we sat down. It was really casual. And Charlotte, if you're watching this, I love you. She just kind of stares at me. And I was like, okay. I said, so I don't like you like that, and I'm gonna tell you why, because it's me and not you. And she was like, are you kidding me? You're gonna use that line? And I was just like, wait, just let me finish. It's me because I'm gay. And I never wanted me coming out to be this dramatic thing, but in that moment I could not control myself and I just started like sobbing. And she her face melted and she reached out for my hands and she was like, "Hey, it's okay. Oh, Kevin, thank you for telling me." So we were there and she was holding my hands all across the table from me. We're just in this coffee shop and I'm sobbing, and then she starts crying and she's like, "Get over here," and we get up and she hugs me. And I don't even remember a lot of detail. I just remember being so relieved in that moment because that was the first time that I had said those words to anybody. She was like, "I've always wanted a gay friend." Again, Charlotte, I love you if you're watching this. You're the best. So we had a great day. We watched movies, we got snacks, and I remember feeling such a weight off my chest. Charlotte and I weren't super close at that time. We had started hanging out more, and I think it was even more difficult to tell the people that I was closest to. So after that, Charlotte and I got very close just because of that, but the other people in my life, it was a lot tougher for me because the people you're closest to and that know you best, you feel like you've been lying the most, and telling them is always the hardest. So I think after that, I was 17, that was December of my junior year, And it took me a while. I came out to one of my best friends, Sarah, shortly after that, but then continued through my senior year, mostly in the closet. They were the only two people that knew. And my friend Sarah had gone off to college, so Charlotte was the only one. I graduated, still in the closet, and that was partly because my high school was also very conservative. I was living in Sarah Palin's hometown, and I remember the couple queer kids that were out just got like harassed constantly, and I saw that and I knew that I couldn't deal with it at that point in time. It was so brave of them, and I give them infinite props for living their lives and being who they are, because I could not bring myself to do it at that point in time. I remember at one point in high school I started dressing trendier, which in the rest of the country wouldn't really be that big of news, but because I was wearing cutoffs and a tank top, someone rolled down their window, and this was the first time this had ever happened to me. Someone rolled down their window and yelled, "Faggot," as the car was speeding by. And I wasn't even really that offended, but I was just like, if this is the reaction I get from dressing trendy, what's gonna happen if I were to come out? And that was scary. So I'd kind of decided I was gonna wait until after I graduated. I was just gonna get through that environment, be out, and then live my life. So after graduation, my family and I went on a road trip. We went down and visited my cousins, went back home. A little while later, I was having a party one night, and a few of my best friends were coming over, as well as my cousin who was living with us. So I woke up that day, and I just remember telling myself, this is the day. This is the day that I come out. It's time. So I woke up, I said, this is the day. I went to work. There was this big drama happening at work that I confronted, and I felt really good about. And then I went home. I walked in the door. I went to the kitchen. My parents were sitting there. My mom was making something. I said, I need to talk to you guys right now. And they were like, okay. And I was like, right now, let's go upstairs. They were like a little concerned. And so I got them in their room. And I remember just saying, I have something to tell you. I'm gonna drop a bomb on you. I'm gay. Of course, they were super supportive. I also forgot to mention, at some point, my family completely left religion when I was about 13. And so my environment went from very, very conservative, even though my parents were more liberal, but very, very conservative, to my parents swung in the complete opposite direction. They were extremely liberal. It was just polar opposites. Religion was no longer a part of my life. So it was this very extreme change. So at that point, I knew they were going to be fine with it. There was no religion to dictate their reaction. So I told them, and of course they were super supportive, and I felt a little stupid for not telling them sooner. But coming out is a process that you have to do inside of yourself first. And until you support and accept yourself, it's very, very difficult to tell other people. And so that was just the point. That was when I was ready. I was 18. So I told them, they were super supportive. I think my mom started crying at one point, and she was like, I'm not crying for any reason other than I don't want your life to be any more difficult than everybody else. And then they were kind of like, we won't tell anyone else until you're ready. The rest of the family, it's all up to you. And so that night, all my friends came over before we had our party. I was sitting there, and I was just kind of like, hey guys, before we do anything, I just have something to tell you guys. I'm gay. And a couple people were surprised, and a couple people were like, yeah, I kind of thought maybe. But everyone was super cool about it, really accepting and embracing. And once again, I just felt relief, so much relief. I think in general, I had a really good coming out experience, partly because I waited so long until I was secure and ready and knew that things were going to be okay. I think if I would have come out in high school, it would have been a different story, but part of me also wishes I would have, because I missed out on a lot of experiences. And there were other gay kids in my school. It wasn't like I was the only one, and it could have been really amazing. So after that, I just kind of let the chips fall, and people found out as they did. I didn't really make a big effort to tell anyone. If someone asked me, I was honest, but family slowly kind of found out. And some people I haven't even talked to about it today. A lot of my family's deeply religious, and it's just something that would never even get brought up, even if they knew. And that sucks. I wish that I had more extended family that I could talk to, and I wish that one day if I do get married or something that they would be able to come, but that's just not a reality for me and a lot of other people, and that's okay. So anyway, that's my story, and like I said before, if you have grown up in an environment like this and you've taken on so much shame, it takes a lot of time to heal that, and that's a huge challenge for us in the LGBT community to overcome. And I think nowadays, at least in the United States and other first world countries, the conditions are a lot better and people aren't getting as much negative messaging, and that's wonderful. And that's why it's so important that we continue to tell our stories and we continue to live authentically and speak our truth and don't back down in the face of discrimination. It's taken me a lot of time personally to even get to the place I am now with accepting myself and being able to live my life and do the things that I want to do. Breaking all that down takes a lot of time, and there's a lot of work to do. So don't stop sharing your story. And if you're able to come out, do. If you're not, that's okay. You shouldn't put yourself in harm's way. You shouldn't endanger your life. If you have to stay in the closet, then that's something that you have to do to protect yourself. And if you're still in the closet, if you are living in a place where you don't want to live, if you have no connection around you, if you're just waiting for life to happen, don't ever feel like you're alone, because you're not. And your day will come and you will find yourself in kinder waters, because you are a beautiful, capable human being and you are going to create that for yourself. So don't lose hope. It's going to be okay. There's also a lot of resources if you need help, if you need someone to talk to, and I will put all those links down below. And yeah, live your truth. Don't give up. Things will get better. Bye guys.